don't think there's any easy way to put what happened with the news today of Von Miller going down. For those of you who don't know, in case this is a shock to anyone, as Rich already says, like the Charlie Brown style, ugh. Yeah, Von Miller, they go into his knee today to do some exploratory activity, and turns out it's torn ACL, and he's out for the year. We'll see what the timeline looks like going forward. Is Spin asked right here, how does it go from MCL to ACL? Most likely it was because of how severe the swelling was. You can't really get a good read on an MRI, so they went physically into the knee today to kind of see what was up, and then when they went in, they saw the tear, and thus we are where we are. Again, Von was pretty confident just a couple weeks ago that the swelling was going to go down. It was a lateral meniscus injury. He was hoping to be back by the Jets game, and then it was like, no, they're going to put him on IR, let him, recuperate slowly, and then come back for the playoff stretch. And then again, they went in with that exploratory surgery, and there you go. And, a Thanksgiving game clips another member of the Buffalo Bills defense for the second year in a row. Tremendously unfortunate. But this was a guy who, if you're looking at it, again, holistically at this point, Von Miller was the guy that was brought in theory, to take the Buffalo Bills over the top. A tremendous player playing a tremendously important position in football, but also a tremendously important position, especially for the Buffalo Bills, with how much they rely on that front four to generate pressure, but also fit the run. It's part of the reason why the Bills have been able to disguise coverage so well, because they can show two high safety shells pre-snap and do a bunch of things, spinning safeties down after and rotating a variety of coverages on the back end, because they can play with lighter type boxes, because they can fit the run well with their linebackers, but again, with what they do on that front four. And Von Miller, he's known for his pass rush prowess, which is understandable. He's a Hall of Famer, mostly because of that, but he's been a good run defender this year. He's been a good run defender his entire career. And what we're going to dive into now in this piece on the show, we're going to start to look at Greg Rousseau, AJ Epenesa, and Boogie Basham and see what they could potentially do to mitigate the loss of Von Miller. And this is not to say that his shoes can be filled, because they can't. He was the closer for this defensive line, and he was a player that was basically a walking bucket, a player that you could legitimately trust to win at any time, and a player that offenses had to account for on every play. Replacing him will take a collective performance, but there's some recent positives that we can draw on from the young guns at the edge position. Again, Greg Rousseau, AJ Epenesa, and Boogie Basham for the Buffalo Bills. We can draw on some of the positive performances they've had these last couple of weeks. Specifically, we're going to dive into some things from the New England Patriots game tape to show what they may be able to work on going forward in potentially mitigating the loss of Von Miller. Not going to focus too much on Shaq Lawson, not because he's not playing well, but at this point, Shaq is what he is. We know he's good on stunts as a looper and as a spiker. We know how good he is at setting the edge against the run. We know how good he is as a force and a spill player. Then we know he has somewhat of a limited pass rush upside. He's physical. He's a born in China shop. He had several standout reps against the pass and the run against the New England Patriots. But really looking into Rousseau, Epenesa, and Boogie, wanted to show some clips that highlight the ability that they showed in the New England Patriots game, but that are also indicative of what they've been on the year as a whole. The clips they're going to dive into are who they've been like largely for the entire year, but now it has to change a little bit, and that's where the conversation shifts. They've shown these flashes, right? They've shown an ability. They've popped on tape. They've popped on the broadcast or on game tape. Now the question is, and again, this is a big question, probably the question is, can they increase the frequency of those flashes and display these abilities with more consistency and more productivity? Everybody has to raise their game to some degree at the edge position group for the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, the interior D-line has to step it up as well. And they've had a good year. Ed Oliver's having a good year. Daquan Jones is having a phenomenal year. Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips, with what they've been as rotational players, the depth on the interior has been strong all year. They've been able to mitigate some injuries throughout the season, largely because Daquan Jones has been such a force. And then you've gotten contributions from Phillips and Settle when Ed Oliver was down. You're getting quality reps from the practice squad guys that are getting called up. The interior is going to have to step up as well. But for the purpose of this segment, we're going to focus on the edge position. And again, focusing on those young guys, because those are the ones who still have that ceiling that could potentially be something in the pass rush game. Greg Rousseau, AJ Epenesa, and Boogie Basham. everybody has to raise their game in some level, right? If you were fourth in the rotation and you were winning 1 out of every 10 times, now all of a sudden you're third in the rotation. You need to win 1 out of every 7. If you were third in the rotation before, now you're second. Now you got to start winning 1 out of 5, and so on and so forth. Whatever qualification you are using to measure effectiveness, the success rate there has to go up for at least one of them, but most likely all of them, because there's no one player that's going to replace Von Miller. He's one of the best football players in the entire NFL, let alone one of the best players at his actual position. And again, the role that he was brought in to occupy is the closer, the one just like literally like a baseball closer, like the one who gets brought in to be like, okay, cool, let's shut everything down and let's win this game. Let's go home, turn out the lights, it's over. When you lose your closer, you can still patchwork some things together with the bullpen, but it becomes, okay, who are we putting in against this type of hitter? Okay, this guy struggles against this kind of stuff, so let's put in this guy to match with him. You all of a sudden have to correct for a lot of variables and a lot of situations, because again, you have to patchwork together the loss of such an important player and such a quality player at that position. And that's what we're going to dive into in this part of this guy's coverage. And in this segment specifically, we're going to look into some game tape, starting to see what these guys can build upon for the rest of this year, again, in potentially mitigating the loss of Von Miller. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen here as we dive into some tape. What we're going to look at first is this rep from Mr. AJ Epenesa. This was a tremendously impressive rep for me. Watching it live on the broadcast, I was able to tweet a slow-mo video of it on Twitter during the game or around after the game. We're going to watch it from the sideline angle first and then watch it from the end zone. When you look at it just from the sideline angle here, and I titled it AJ Epenesa runs the arc. So watch. You're just going to watch him beat the left tackle. Quickly, speed. Mac Jones has to evade, walks right into him. Again, you're just watching in real time. It's AJ Epenesa. Just beats his guy. It's like, okay, good rep, good get off, speed, hand technique, sack. When you watch it from the end zone angle, watch the wrist control that AJ Epenesa exhibits on this play. His two best attributes, in my estimation, in my evaluation, have been his get off, his quickness off the line, and his hand technique. He's got active hands. He's got strong hands. But what he shows on this play, the wrist control against the tackle, he takes off. Watch right there. I'm going to stop it right there so you can see. AJ Epenesa literally has his right wrist on the wrist of the outside arm of the tackle. He's got him completely locked up and he's got him grabbed. Now watch what he does. He uses that wrist control and he uses that grab to pull himself through the arc. And that's how he gets around the edge. And Mac Jones has to evade because of Basham bringing some pressure on the other side. And all of a sudden you get a sack. So you see it from the side angle and it's just like, okay, he beat his man around the corner. But when you break it down and you look at it from the end zone, this is tremendously impressive. This is Von Miller-esque. A lot of people said it on Twitter after I tweeted the clip. This is a very quality, technically sound rep from AJ Epenesa to be able to have that hand-eye coordination, establish that wrist control, and pull yourself through the arc by winning with that wrist control. This is very impressive and something very positive to build upon. Again, this is something newer in his game, but this type of hand technique and him winning with his hands has been present in his game. Even when he's been generating sacks these past couple of years, you're seeing him win with his hands, whether it's just a swipe or a quick chop. It's his hand technique that has been his calling card for when he's been able to generate consistent pressure off the edge. Really quality rep from AJ Epenesa. One more time. I want to go through it in slow-mo. He got the quick get off. Boom. Grabs the wrist. Pulls himself through. You can even see the tackle dip because Epenesa pulls himself through and he walks himself into a sack. Also, what I wanted to highlight on this play, I like the design on this one. This isn't specifically AJ Epenesa related or even Basham related. Watch Matt Milano here. He's going to rush and he's going to occupy the right tackle. And then as he sees Ramondre Stevenson leak out of the backfield, he stops, he pops, he drops out to take away that potential hot throw. But that rush is what allows Boogie Basham to come in free off the edge. So again, keep an eye right here on these two, Basham and Matt Milano. Boom, Basham comes in free. Milano pops out to take away the hot. That's nice design and nice execution as well. The AJ Epenesa piece is the highlight on this one, but that's a quality rep that you got there from Milano and Basham as well, and a quality design and quality call at that time. Now, we're going to continue with some AJ Epenesa pieces. Let's go to our next clip. The next clip here is a run stop from AJ Epenesa. I'm going to scroll to it. Boom, there we go. Again, we're going to look at it from the sideline angle first. This is an area where Epenesa has somewhat struggled a bit. He's got a 63 point something missed tackle percentage on the year. It's not a ton from a volume perspective. He's only got 7 missed tackles on the year. The leaders on the team from a volume perspective and missed tackles are DeMar Hamlin and Matt Milano, each with 14, I believe. But again, from a percentage standpoint, considering how many snaps he sees, those 7 missed tackles, it leads to a high missed tackle percentage. But he corrected for that a bit in this game. And what's been frustrating with him on the year is you're seeing him make plays and get into the backfield against the run, and then he just doesn't finish, right? You even saw it a couple times in this game. Actually, you saw it from several players on the defensive line for the Bills, getting to Mac Jones, but not being able to bring him down and get home, in theory, holistically. But AJ Epenesa has seen that in the run game as well, getting into the backfield, not being able to bring the running back down. Doesn't happen on this one. So let's take a peek at it from the sideline in real time. Watch him shed the tackle, get underneath, bring down Ramondre Stevenson, which is also impressive in and of itself because Ramondre Stevenson is a horse. He's 6 foot, 230 pounds. He's got speed. He's got low center of gravity. He's got power. This is an easy play from AJ Epenesa here, but this is a quality run stop. Let's look at it from the end zone angle. First piece, as I have labeled here, watch him how he eyes the tight end. Then he's going to stack and shed that left tackle. But the eyeing the tight end piece is key. This could be a potential crack toss scenario. He doesn't know if that tight end is potentially coming down on him a little bit and is going to crack him. So on the snap, watch Epenesa snap. He eyeballs that tight end, especially because Jonnu Smith takes that initial little step inside. So Epenesa eyeballs it, sees that he's not coming, gets his hands on him, then starts to get outside for that contained piece. Gets his hands inside on Brown. Look at the leverage established and look at the extension. That's beautiful. Low man wins. It's one of the many proverbial adages in I think that's whatever, doesn't matter. One of the proverbial adages in football, low man wins. Epenesa gets lower than Brown. Look where his hand position is on the inside of his man, inside that chest. He's in control of his man right now. And then he's also getting that extension and he's getting his eyes into the backfield so he can see what's going on with the running back. And doing all of that simultaneously allows him to shed his man and use his own momentum against him because he's established hand control, because he's established leverage, sheds his man, then gets underneath and makes the play. You also have nice pursuit coming over the top from Matt Milano. You have good run support coming from Xavier Rhodes. This is a quality snap for AJ Epenesa against the run. These are what you need to see more of going forward. Not only beating your man at the line of scrimmage, but bringing your man down in the backfield. And again, this is something, the first part, we've seen this part somewhat regularly this year for AJ Epenesa when he's been in there. Him beating his man and getting into the backfield, that right there isn't rare for AJ Epenesa. But this next part has eluded him. Actually being able to physically make the tackle in the backfield. This needs to happen more. He's the one I think he has more pass rush upside and more pass rush productivity, presence in theory right now than Boogie Basham does with how strong his get off is and his hand technique and the pass rush plan that he does operate with. But you're going to need him to be able to still function within the run game and be able to make plays like that. And again, this is a good one. Eyeballing the tight end, recognizing where your man is, beat him with leverage, stack, shed, make the play in the backfield. Good quality rep from AJ Epenesa, one that we're going to need to continue to see more of going forward. This next clip, we're going to go to the last play of this game and show Mr. Boogie Basham. He lost weight this year, coming into this year. They wanted to see him focus more on the edge a little bit, but his best reps, not completely this year, but he's had some strong reps again when he's been kicked into the interior of this defensive line. If you want to go with the proverbial, NASCAR type of package or whatever, where you have defensive ends or edge players lined up on the interior, you're going with like 4 edges across the line. He's lost weight, but he still doesn't have that holistic quickness or explosiveness that allows him to take tackles around the arc and beat them upfield and beat them around the edge. But he does have the quickness and agility inside to beat interior offensive linemen with his agility and with his quickness. And that's what happens on this play. This is honestly gorgeous, the agility and the technique from Boogie Basham on this play. We're going to play it in real time. Whoop. Beats his man in a heartbeat. And then this is where you see Mac Jones being elusive, and eventually he runs for forever and avoids Jordan Phillips and just keeps running, but he has nowhere to go, so he just throws the ball away and it becomes nothing. But again, that's not the focus. The focus is Boogie Basham. On the snap, so he's lined up in a 4-eye. That's a technique for where he's lined up. You just go by the even numbers here. Head up on the center is a 0. Head up on the guard is a 2. Head up on tackle is 4. And he's on the inside shade, so you have a 4-eye right there. Watch the initial step, comes off the ball, he sells upfield. He gets 71 to open up a little bit, and he steps to that right side. He commits to that right side a bit. And then you just get the real quick, the step inside, the quick arm over or swim right there. He does not get touched. He is by his man before he even gets a hand on him. The hand for 71 is on the back of the shoulder of Boogie Basham. This is a very quality rep from Boogie Basham. Now, this is what we need to see more of. His flashes are fewer and farther in between than AJ Epenesa and then Greg Rousseau. I think right now, Greg Rousseau, everyone knows about his run-stopping prowess and what he's able to do on the edge against the run. He's shown a bit more from a pass rush productivity standpoint as well, showing some pop in that area. But Basham's best trait is probably his motor and his relentlessness, and that doesn't always work consistently. It's hard to just beat guys with effort and beat guys with motor. Not Devin Singletary, just motor like your effort and your engine. And if you can kick him inside and get him those matchups, especially later in the game with this rotation on the defensive line, keeping him fresh and allowing him to potentially take advantage of bigger, heavier body dudes on the interior who are potentially tired after playing an entire game of football and he's seen less snaps and he's fresh, you might be able to win that matchup even more so because of that, but let alone because of his skill set. His skill set still lends to him being more of a pass rush presence on the inside because his technique and his speed isn't there enough to consistently win around the edge and be able to run that arc. But this right here, this is beautiful. Sell upfield. As soon as he sees 71 commit, again, you see him starting to step with that right leg. Boom. 71's feet are too close together. He's beat. There's no way he's recovering. This is over. This is over. If this was a wrestling match, 71's manager is thrown in the towel because this is done. Basham gets right through. Ooh. Real quick arm over. Nice and tight. No wasted movement. Everything is quick, sudden, decisive, bang, bang, bang in the backfield. Nice quality rep from Carlos Basham. His, again, fewer and farther in between than what we saw in that first clip from AJ Epenesa, but nonetheless, something that we need to continue to see from him going forward. Again, trying to make the loss of Von Miller, as non-hurtful as possible, even though it's going to hurt no matter what. Now we're going to move on to some Greg Rousseau tape. Let's look at Mr. Groot here. This one's a nice rep. Again, doesn't result in a sack, but this is Greg Rousseau using his length and using his strength and leverage to literally walk the right tackle back into the backfield on Mac Jones. So I have Rousseau highlighted right there. Comes off the snap, and just watch him drive his man back. Drives his man back, and then he reaches, doesn't get Mac Jones. Again, Mac Jones was slippery in this game. He evaded a lot of pressure, a lot of potential sack opportunities. Watch Rousseau again, get underneath his man, drive, drive, drive. He's got that tackle on skates. Let's look at it from the end zone angle. Again, because of that wide alignment, that creates an island for the offensive lineman. So this tackle is basically going to be in a one-on-one scenario. He gets some kind of chip help from Ramondre Stevenson, but that's his only source of support because of this wide alignment. He's going to have to go out there and meet Greg Rousseau. It's going to be a one-on-one scenario in some way, shape, or form. And again, Rousseau wins with length and he wins with leverage. Watch him comes off, avoids any chip help, gets even with the tackle, which is hard because Rousseau is tall. And again, like we saw in the first clip with AJ Epenesa, we saw that extension. We saw that establishing of leverage. Look at that. 75 is done. He's on skates. Groot has the leverage advantage. He's got full extension, and he's just pressing him at this point and drives him back to the backfield. 75 never gets his feet established. Watch 75's feet. isn't able to anchor out, isn't able to get hands on Groot, isn't able to do anything to impede the movement. That's because of the length, the leverage, and the speed which Groot operates with. Drive your man back, collapse the pocket. That's going to be his best opportunity at generating pass rush pressure. He's got some more moves this year. He's got the ability to potentially cut inside or win around the arc. His best move is still establish leverage and compress the pocket. Drive your man back. Compress the pocket. Watching in slow-mo. Boom. Drive your man through. Be nice if they could get the sack. You see Lawson looping around a little bit. You see some of that limited athleticism on him. But this is a quality rep from Groot, seeing that ability for him to just put his man on skates and drive him back into Mac Jones. Again, something that we've seen more from him. We need to see more of it going forward. All of a sudden, he's edge one. Now, he's not the Robin to Von Miller's Batman. He's got to be Batman now, or he's got to be some semblance of it. He's the number one edge on this team, probably from a snap standpoint and from an expected level of production standpoint against both the run and the pass. You're going to need to see that level of production more from him going forward. Another one that we're going to show from Mr. Gregory Rousseau came in the second quarter, 5 minutes and 27 seconds left. If I could find it, there we go. This is a nice one. So Groot has the BCR responsibility on this one, and that, for those of you who don't know the vernacular, that stands for bootleg, counter, reverse. So basically, if a run is going away from you, you can't just completely fly down the line and crash down the line of scrimmage. You have to be that responsible piece on the back end in case it's a counter run and the run comes back your way with the running back. In case there's a wide receiver looping around and it's a reverse, you have to honor that action. Or in case the quarterback bootlegs, you have to be the one to green light and kind of rush the quarterback there so he can't just roll out and just have, tons of space. Groot does this very well. His BCR ability has been one of his stronger points, playing on the edge. Again, even just as a rookie, but this year as well, it's carried over. So I have him highlighted there. Watch what happens on this play. They're going to motion the tight end. We're going slow motion here. So Groot comes off the line of scrimmage. He's got BCR responsibility. He sees the fake pitch and immediately attacks and gets upfield. Beats the block from the inside man, forces the early throw. Edmonds cleans it up. Now watch it in real time. Watch as soon as Groot diagnoses it and then explodes. Right? Bang, gets upfield. Green light onto the quarterback, affects him, hurries him, makes him dump it off short. The Bills defense rallies and tackles. This is an example of his processing, his ability to diagnose in real time. I don't know him personally, but in just studying the tape last year and this year, I think one of the aspects of Gregory Rousseau's game that doesn't get talked about enough is his football IQ. He's a good processor of the game in real time, both in terms of his accuracy processing, but also in terms of his quickness in processing. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and it speaks to his understanding of the game at just, again, such a young age and young still in his career at playing the position. Like, he's still green in terms of being an edge, not only in the NFL, but in football. He wasn't an edge in high school and it doesn't have a ton of college reps under his belt. So being able to see him process and diagnose like this is a really good piece to his game. Again, sees it, splits, boom, gets upfield. Watch it from the end zone angle. Head in the backfield. He's watching for it. This one you can really see. So he even watch his initial step. It's a little more to our right, but he sees the action of the line. So you see him lean a little bit and then crash down, but then slow plays it a bit because he sees the flash of color from the tight end coming back his way. Understands his responsibility, and then watch him change his angle. It's all about the angle too, right? Angles in pass rush, angles in your run fits, angle to the ball carrier and your pursuit angles. It's not just being fast. It's not just being strong. It's not just diagnosing. You have to take a proper angle to the ball. Watch how he gets almost straight up field and impacts Mac Jones right away. He cuts off Mac Jones. There's nothing there. And again, watch. Slow play, bang, puts his foot in the ground, gets upfield, pass to the quarterback. It also helps that he's huge, so he takes like 2 steps and he goes like 5 yards in 2 steps. So it helps to be able to have that size and that ability. But this is more of what we're going to need to see continuously from Gregory Rousseau. That ability to affect the game in a multitude of ways. It's not just going to be stats and raw box score numbers. It's not just going to be sacks, tackle for losses, and stops. It's this ability to affect the game and be a supportive piece in doing his 111th. This doesn't really show up on the stat sheet other than a pressure. But the highlight of this play is, okay, cool. Like Edmonds reads it, diagnosis, scrapes over the top. He and Milano play together, and Jonnu Smith gets smacked. But it only happens because Rousseau, with his responsibility on this play, diagnoses this play, green lights on the quarterback, gets upfield, and forces this early throw. And then Edmonds and Milano clean up a little bit on the back end. Again, these aren't the end-all, be-all, but these are representative of what Greg Rousseau has been this year when healthy, what AJ Epenesa has been this year in spurts, and what Carlos Basham, Boogie Basham, has been in spurts. All three of these guys need to step up in their game. Shaq Lawson, again, he is what he is. And what he is a quality piece for this Buffalo Bills team, right? His ability to set the edge, his ability to give you some pass rush pop, his ability to function in games, whether he's the spiker or the looper up front. And his veteran presence, his leadership, his energy, his attitude. He's a guy that adds some violence on that defensive line and the defense. Everybody's got to step up, Shaq Lawson included. But Groot, Epenesa, and Basham are the three that really need to take their game to the next level because they have a higher ceiling potential. We know what Lawson is. He's a lower ceiling, high floor guy. His role is important, but the guys that are going to have to pick up the slack while they are all four of those edge guys collectively and the interior of the defensive line, Groot, Epenesa, or Basham, one of them, ideally all three of them, need to raise their game up in some quantifiable, measurable measure, increase their success rates, increase their effectiveness, and do more of what we've seen in these clips. Again, this wasn't just happening this one time. They've shown this in spurts and in flashes throughout the entire year. Now those flashes need to increase in terms of their frequency and not even just have it be about flashes. It needs to be a consistent piece of their game going forward. Again, not ideal that Von Miller's gone. It's a similar situation for me, that it was with Trey White last year. It's a significant hurdle towards trying to win a Super Bowl, towards trying to even get to a Super Bowl, let alone physically winning it. And, here's an excellent comment from Carl. I'll actually start it instead of clicking it. 1, thank you so much for being here, Carl. 2, thank you very much for the super chat. I sincerely appreciate you. Thank you very much. Carl says, we did not have Miller last year, and we were 13 seconds away from possibly winning it all. All of our D linemen are better just having Von in the room. That's true. They've learned from Von Miller, whether it was the pass rush summit in the offseason, whether it was through practice and games this year. And the piece and tying it together with last year, right? Again, I feel the same this year as I did last year with Trey White going down. Also, again, Micah Hyde being down as well this year. The loss of Micah Hyde is significant. But when Trey went down last year, I didn't think the season was done. It was just a significant obstacle and hurdle in getting to a Super Bowl and potentially winning it. It's the same thing this year. Granted, yes, last year, I think that Kansas City game, not even the 13 seconds piece, but how the Bills played defense in that game and how vulnerable they were, I don't think that vulnerability is as severe if Tre'Davious White is in that game, both from a schematic and scheme versatility structure perspective, but also from a confidence in terms of what you're calling and how you approach the game perspective. If Trey is in there, I don't think 13 seconds happens. I don't think we get to a 13 seconds scenario. I don't think the Bills are giving up as many points as they did if Tre'Davious White is in there. Now, that being said, they didn't have Trey, and they lost the game, but for all intents and purposes, they had Kansas City beat, and they should have won that effing football game, right? We all know what it is at this point. They didn't move forward. Losing Von Miller, just like losing Micah Hyde, those are significant blows to the Bills' championship aspirations. That does not mean the season is over. What it means is other players have to step up. The coaches have to step up. It takes a collective effort. It's going to take a village to replace somebody like Von Miller. Everybody's got to step their game up. The offense has to get better. The rest of the edges have to get better. The rest of the defense has to get better. Coaching's got to be on point. Everybody has to step their game up in order to mitigate a significant loss like that. Now, it's not impossible, but it is hard. It is an obstacle. It is a challenge. And we'll see if this team can meet it. Again, it's significant, but we'll see what it is.